Batman loves his gadgets. He always has and he probably always will. But there's been a long history of Bat stuff with a lot of dark twists and campy turns. So what gadgets will Batman be using in The Batman? The Robert Pattinson version looks like it'll be a pared down, back to basics Batman, so you'd expect that he'd have to cut back on gadgets too. But that is definitely not the case. The movie's not even out yet, and we've already caught a glimpse of countless new tools that promise to be both more epic and even more emotional than past Batman accessories. Join us as we take a closer look at all the gadgets we know about for sure and some that just might be on the horizon. Welcome to The Binger. There are tons of gadgets that could appear in The Batman, but there's one that has to. It's been made painfully obvious that the Batarang will be front and center in the new movie, because when he's not using it, Mr. Pattinson will be storing the gadget on the front of his suit in the center of his chest. The Batarang is, as you can obviously see, a boomerang in the shape of a bat. But what else do we know about it? Well, for one, it's got sharp edges, and although Batman probably won't try to use it this way, it can be lethal. But this new iteration of the gadget could have another, more personal meaning. While Batarangs of the past were simply things to throw at people, this one might be a shout out to Batman's parents, and a signal that Bats is taking his embrace of his childhood trauma to the next level. The going theory is that Master Bruce cobbled together this version of the Batarang from the gun that killed his parents. While some people might wear their heart on their sleeve, Batman wears his parents' death on his chest. Hardcore. This theory has its origin in Detective Comics number 1000, which came out only last year. In it, Bruce finds the gun that took his parents' life, and with characteristic Batman seriousness says, "Who knows how many other lives it's ruined, or ended. But after tonight, it's never going to hurt anyone again." He melts it down and smiths it into a breastplate that he sews into his suit, right under the Bat logo. The new Batman movie seems like it's going to be taking that moment of poetic justice and turning it around into something a little more vengeful. And if it's a Batarang, that reforged gun might continue to ruin some people's lives. There's also been speculation that the thing on his chest is actually just two knives. If you look closely at it, you can see two little clips, just like what you might see on a hunting knife. So maybe this Batman is going to be more the outdoorsy type, going hunting and skinning animals with his chest-mounted bat knives. Or he could be more of an outsider's greaser type, hopping off his motorcycle to have switchblade fights in the park. Any new Batman wouldn't be complete without his gauntlets. Those things on his forearm with the spikes coming out that he can use to block anything from punches to bullets. But for the Batman, they're getting a redesign. The most obvious new feature is, of course, the bat darts. Attached to the gauntlet are 5 long metal things that look like darts. Knowing Batman, they're probably not lethal, although they could be tipped with some chemical that would just incapacitate his enemies. They could also be attached to some type of wire so that Bats could shoot them at the top of a building and then zip himself up. Alternatively, he could just use them to play darts. Matt Reeves, the director of the new film, said that it's going to be very much a point-of-view driven noir Batman tale. It's told very squarely on his shoulders, and I hope it's going to be a story that will be thrilling, but also emotional. It's more Batman in his detective mode than we've seen in the films. With that in mind, maybe they're pens that Pattinson will use to write down the clues that he uncovers while sniffing around Gotham's underworld. Or maybe he'll be using them to record his melancholy noir detective musings.
The windows were closed and the sunshine coming in through the Venetian blind showed up the dust in the air.
Just below those darts, attached to a heavy-duty looking strap on his wrist, the new Batman wears what looks like a heavy-duty Apple Watch. You might expect Bruce Wayne, a billionaire, to have something a little more cutting-edge than the ill-fated Apple product, which leaves only one motivation for including the Apple Watch on his suit. Batman wants to be cool like everybody else, but unfortunately he's just a few years behind. It's already been 5 years since Young Thug made wearing a single Apple Watch irrelevant. So Batman's gonna need at least 3 Apple Watches. Batman has had a lot of Bat vehicles over the years. The most famous of them, the Batmobile, will not be making an appearance in the new film. But it's probably for the best. There have been so many of them over the years that making a new, unique version of his car would be tough. There was the 60s version based on the Lincoln Futura, the Dark Knight's tank-like behemoth, and Michael Keaton's iconic but impractical version from 1989. People love the Batmobile, so much so that they even build their own versions, even if they're not exactly street legal and get repossessed by the Moscow police. Now, this is most definitely not a weapon, but it's kind of a gadget. You've probably been wondering after seeing all these set photos, who is that guy in the Batsuit and what are all those little dots on his face? Unfortunately, they aren't Marilyn Monroe-style beauty marks, so the Batman will not be going the Birds of Prey route and paying tribute to a famous old dance number. Even though past Batmans were more inclined toward camp, these dots are not theatrical, they're functional. The guy in the suit with the dots on his face is not Robert Pattinson, but his stunt double. And the dots are for tracking the stunt double's face, so that once all the tricky stuff is filmed, they can paste Pattinson's mug back where it belongs. But Batman still needs to get around town. This time he'll be riding solo on the Batcycle. No, that is not a Batman popsicle, nor is it a Batman bicycle. It's a Batman motorcycle. The Batcycle has appeared in Batman films and TV lots of times since its original appearance in the 60s TV show, but never as the main vehicle. The original one was made out of a modded Yamaha and even came with a sidecar that was actually a go-kart. So if Robin wanted to strike out on his own, he could just detach from the motorcycle and zip around at a whopping 50 miles per hour. There were a few versions of the Batcycle in cartoons over the years, but the only other famous movie version appeared in the Nolan trilogy. Although that very extra bike is technically called the Bat Pod, it's a thing with two wheels that you ride, which is motorcycle enough for me. The Batman seems to be taking a much chiller route with its Batcycle. Even though it's heavy duty and blacked out, it's still recognizably a motorcycle. Specifically, it's a Harley-Davidson FL Softail. There's even a leaked video of the Bat stuntman having a lazy little wipeout on a wet road as Catwoman cruises by without a care in the world. But that's not the only Bat bike in the film. In another set photo, we see civilian Bruce on a significantly more civilian motorcycle. This could mean that as the movie progresses and Batman gets more high-tech, so will his bike. Which means that, in the end, we could still end up with something like the Bat Pod. Ever since the first photo of the new Batman leaked, people have been upset about the cowl. I'm not exactly sure why, considering all the other cowls have looked stiff and kind of fake. Well, this one looks like something a person could actually wear. Yeah, sure, it's made of leather and it's got stitching on it, so it probably won't be stopping any bullets, but at least Bruce Wayne can hide his identity and be comfortable at the same time. The other gripe that fans have is with the ears. They're small and kind of cute, like pointy little mouse ears. Not scary like the old Batman. But Bruce Wayne is a smart guy and he does things for a reason. So those pointy ears must have been a choice. My bet is that he's going to be putting his head down and spearing somebody at some point during this movie. Maybe while riding the Batcycle. Mark my words. But that's just Batman. What about all the other characters who've been confirmed for the film? Because they've got gadgets too. Catwoman, who's being played by Zoe Kravitz, has lots of weapons and accessories. But calling them gadgets might be an overstatement. Her most iconic weapon is her whip, which she will most definitely be using in the new film. But she's also famously used duct tape, red-green style, and bolas, those two balls on a string used for throwing at and capturing enemies or prey. Plus, we've already seen that clip of her riding a bike beside Batman. Paul Dano's portrayal of the Riddler will likely be light on the gadgets, leaning more on his brains than on his brawn. Although he'll probably have to throw down with somebody at some point. But still, you can bet that he'll have either a sword or a gun hidden in his question mark cane. Similarly, Colin Farrell's Penguin will have at least one high-tech umbrella. In his previous appearances in both comics and film, his specialty umbrellas have housed swords, guns, poison, flamethrowers, lasers, and poisonous gas. He's even used it as a helicopter. The umbrella is the Penguin's calling card, and it would be a huge shame to see it go to waste. Unfortunately, there is reason to worry on this front. Based on what we've seen of the new Batman so far, it looks like it won't be very campy at all. In fact, it looks like it's gonna be kind of serious, which means it'll be harder to include Bulgarian umbrellas or a woman dressed as a cat running around town whipping people and tying them up with duct tape. But here's to hoping. So those are the weapons that we know about, but there are still lots from the comics that we haven't had time for today. So what iconic Batman gadgets and weapons do you think will be in the new movie? Also, do you think the new Batman looks authentic or unfinished? Will this movie even be any good? Let us know in the comments and make sure you subscribe to The Binger for more.